So the big news today is, of course, the Russian potential moves on Ukraine. And so how far will we go down and how far will things like oil and other commodities go up? That's the big question. And we start by looking at the dollar, and we're seeing that's pretty steady this morning. And of course, this is the long term, the medium term, and the short term view of the market with the corresponding point and figure charts. You can download this layout in Updata, and you can do this, of course, on any list. So if we look at currencies, we see, for example, the euro is up. We get a long-term, a medium-term, and short-term view of the market. If we're below the cloud, we're bearish. If we're above the cloud, we're bullish. So on all three time frames, we are still bullish, despite being bearish, despite being up this morning. And of course, I can apply this to any list you like, and in fact, pretty much any data source. You can run on Bloomberg, Reuters, Metastock, whatever you've got. You can run this same template, and it's just really super quick. So one of the things I'm quite keen to look at this morning, for example, is the Russian ruble, and we see that that is actually on the verge of breaking out of a great big sideways range. This will be quite explosive for the ruble, for the dollar against the ruble. So we expect to see effectively a devaluation of the Russian currency. No big surprises there, but the key thing is, what are the targets? And we're seeing 36%, 37%. And when you take our oil target that we gave to clients, you'll see that oil in rubles has got a long way to run. So quite an interesting scenario there. Looking at sterling, we are sitting at 136, still looking quite good on the long term and the medium term. And short term, we seem to be finding cloud support. We've got targets some 2% higher on the short term chart. Interest rate concerns, of course, in the UK driving that. Against the euro, we're sitting steady at this 120 level. Again, looking stronger than the euro over the trend there. Bitcoin actually sitting at $37,000 has been in decline. There's been a little bit of a sell everything attitude going on in markets, and we're seeing that filtering through to crypto. But of course, the big news will be what will happen with equity markets. Now, US equities were closed yesterday for President's Day. And so we do have these downside targets, which will almost certainly be activated today. So we've got downside potential of some 17% there. On the NASDAQ, it's over 25%, 27% downside potential. These targets will activate it. If you think about it, it's the thrust, it's the recovery, and then the activation of that initial wave of selling that then gives you the potential target. And you cannot ignore these targets. And of course, on the futures markets, they were activated yesterday. CME was open, and we see these were activated. So that's why we kind of know, and we see the futures markets down 2% on the Nasdaq. So expect heavy falls today on US markets, and the VIX volatility has jumped above that 30 level. The fear index is back in the really fearful zone. Thinking about it, if we're below 20, we're not so fearful. If we're in the 20s, we're a bit fearful. At above 30, we start to be very fearful. And what's interesting is the trend in the VIX, the way that we're seeing this higher low and potentially a higher high. That VIX volatility is just showing us how fearful markets are. In Europe, the DAX was down 3% yesterday. It's down a further nearly 1% today, really just highlighting how we've got further to fall. The 15,000 level was key on the DAX. We did a post on LinkedIn yesterday saying how that level had been broken, and that's really critical. We've got downside potential here as well. We're bearish on the medium and short term. The long term, of course, will take longer to kick to that bearish, but the fact is markets are now in a downtrend. We look at Japan, we're down 1.5% there, and Tokyo, the Hang Seng was down nearly 3%. So again, bearish on all three time frames, has actually been bearish for quite some time. And we look at China, we're down 1%. Chinese stocks just looking like they might have broken out, but now we're seeing this bearishness kicking in. And the Sensex down 0.5% in India, the Aussie market down 1%. So markets really getting hammered across the board. There was an expectation that the Russia situation might stabilize, but of course now that's not happening. We're seeing the markets really coming off. Looking at soft commodities, the effect is explosive in the other direction. So we've got wheat up 3% because Russia is a massive wheat producer. We've got corn up 2% again. So soft commodities really been affected. Gold hasn't really reacted this morning. Tends to be a bit of a bellwether for when markets are concerned, of course. But we do have strong upside targets, and we're teetering this 1900 level. It was 1800 previously. It's now 1900 is the level that we're really sort of playing with. Silver is up 0.8%, so we are seeing precious metals moving, and US 10-year yield sitting a little bit depressed at 1.90%. We're still waiting to activate this bigger upside target, 2.7%. Expect tech to really fall heavily today. We've got stocks with downside targets. You can do this on any of your stocks. Look for the downside. Even Apple, the poster child. Will we activate this 26% downside target for Apple? That's what's going to be key. And of course, a lot of stocks have already done that. Stocks like Facebook, which we identified earlier this month, falling down some 40% from the level that they were at the start of the month. So really quite key how we're seeing this real plummet now, and that's going to potentially take hold. Now, looking at the energy mix, we see here, and this here, I've got my daily and my 60 minutes, so my medium and short term daily, 60 minute and 1 minute. This is what we use to call the market every day for clients in the morning. And if we look at Brent crude, we're up nearly 4%. We're up 3% yesterday. We are pushing to that $100 mark. No big surprises here. In our reports, these are our daily reports. This is our report for today on European energy. But in our special reports, we put out a report on crude oil, and we gave a very big upside target for crude in that report to clients a month ago, and that target at the time seemed unbelievable, but the fact is it's now starting to get people wondering. The target for crude oil is massive, and that's been in place well ahead of what's going on right now. We're just playing it out now. WTI is up 5%, so really big moves there. Oil prices almost certainly going above $100, but we've been saying that for quite some time. And looking at nat gas, we are actually a little bit depressed this morning in the US. We hit the downside targets yesterday. Watch for new upside targets on your nat gas charts today. Coal sitting at 120, up 4%. We're seeing the whole energy mix benefiting from this. Of course, it'd be good to make new highs. We've got a target into the 150s for coal if we can activate those targets. So really interesting. A lot of these things going topsy-turvy. We were neutral on emissions to clients this morning. We've got mixed targets. The upside is likely to win. We've got to recover above the cloud, but that's just interesting seeing how that's playing out. We do have these upside targets. Watch for these being activated. And of course, gas markets up 6% on European gas. This is where we expect to see the biggest move, but these previous levels, which again we've given out in our report to client this morning, are really key. So those previous moves in gas markets, absolutely critical, and the same with MBP. So there as well. And looking at German power, we're up 4%. That 135 level was pretty critical, and we're holding that for the moment. But just remember to take a good look at our global reports. We've got our global market report out. Here we covered multiple products, all the currencies, etc., covered in that report. You'll find it in your Updata news in your system, so make sure you look at that as well. And of course, if we go and look at the global list, we go back to looking at these currencies. You can go right the way through and see the charts. It's going to be a really interesting day today in markets. These targets are becoming really, really critical. Keep a close eye on them. That's it for today. Have a good day. Hang in there. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.